Hi, Jessyca. How are you? I'm good.
Good. Okay, so tell us what time it is where you are.
Well, it's 7 p.m. We are basically closed down for offices. We're still under lockdown. So we're still under curfew. 7 p.m. We're supposed to be at home. So I'm at home.
Okay, so where you we're not under lockdown, but we're back in mask full time. But so you're supposed to be home at 7 p.m. in the evening?
Yes, we are supposed to be home by 7 p.m. All businesses are supposed to be closed by 7 p.m. So at this time, most of the people should be home. All Some of them are on their way home. So just a few people are allowed to be moving up and down, up and down.
Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
in a minute. So, the Time to Wine broadcast is a live broadcast featuring experts in wine, social media, leadership, and marketing. And it is 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every other Monday, and primarily on Twitter, but on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I have now a second broadcast. It's a live stream interview that's the second and the fourth Fridays of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've just been notified that I am available to start broadcast on LinkedIn Live. And I'm starting a live broadcast with a big lineup of people coming up for that. So right now we are talking to Lillian Muleke. Am I saying that right, Lillian?
Yes, you are. Thank
Or did I
you.
say it wrong? Okay. In Kampala, Uganda. And she is the co-director of Laville Wines and Spirits. And so we're going to talk to her a little bit about what she's doing in Uganda in the wine industry. So let's talk a little bit, Lillian. Let's talk about your work history.
Uh-huh. Well, Laville has been in operation for nearly 9 years now. We started as a small wines and spirits shop. We've expanded to a sit down, and we've expanded to importing in wines from South Africa. We started in South Africa. Now we are importing from Spain, from Portugal, and I think we should soon add France on our list.
Oh, nice. So you're adding
Yeah.
France. Okay. And so how do you
Yeah.
make these connections?
I have you to thank, for starters. We had a very, very nice show. The first time when we did, we're not doing the live, but then we're doing when you interview us, and then Instagram and LinkedIn. We've had a lot of people come in to ask whether they can bring in their wines, whether they can work with us. And yes, we've got a number of people who have come in, checked out the shop, and they're interested in doing business with us.
Wonderful. And I know that in Uganda, wine, I think you were telling me originally, wine is fairly new. So do you want to talk a little bit about the transformation from beer to wine?
Well, we've most of the Ugandans, well, as you're brought up as a child, you drink more of the crude beer, and basically it's beer. Wine is something that is new, that has come on the market, and very many people have started appreciating it. The older people, the younger generation, all those above 18. Now you find very many of them preferring taking a wine instead of taking a beer. We are slowly progressing into the champagne, but we are not yet there.
And I think you had mentioned to me before, wine is very favorable for professional business.
Sorry, say that again.
I think you had talked when we talked on the phone. You had mentioned that the wine, the professional businessmen were coming in and meeting and presenting the wine to their clients and things.
Yes, we've had different, like Bridge of Hope, the owner of Bridge of Hope. We've had her here. We've had different winemakers who come and they hold tastings with us, and we invite small groups of people. We've held a function up to 50 people that has gone on for about 3 days. And this was purely wine testing, but different wines and different from different regions from South Africa.
Wonderful. Okay, so do you want to talk
Yeah,
a little bit
we'll
about your? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, we'll soon have Portugal and Spain sending in some of their winemakers and to handle some testings with us as well.
Oh, good. So, do you want to talk about your wine shop, Laville Wine and Spirits,
Yes.
and what's happening now, and what's happening with COVID, and all of the excitement going on?
Well, like I had mentioned, we had expanded from basically a retail shop to a sit down where you come sit and have a glass of wine, enjoy it with a couple of friends. Uh, right now, bars are not allowed to work, so that means you can't sit and enjoy your glass of wine in a bar. You have to be at home for you to enjoy. So we have expanded, and we've expanded the retail. We are giving out more on wholesale. So for people who want, you buy 1, 2 bottles, 3 bottles, depending. So we are helping people more at home, and then we also hold wine testings at home instead of having them at the bar, or just a small group birthday wine testings. Um, we've had people who have requested for wine testing during a wedding. So that's what we are doing. Very few numbers, very safe, and that's the way to go right now.
Okay, so
Yeah,
and then when your shop, what time did your shop close in the past? Is 7 o'clock really early for you?
very early. We used to, it's an all-nighter. So till the last customer leaves, 6 a.m.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, depending.
Okay, so the 7 p.m. curfew is not good for your business.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It brings the business down, but we have to find new norms of working.
I, I think I think all of us are doing that, even in the United States. We're all doing things. A lot of us are doing things that differently, or finding something until something better comes along, the same kind of thing. Okay, and then we'll talk a little bit about in a minute about the differences in what's going on with COVID. So, okay, I'd like to hear about your brand ambassadors. You've got a big group of ambassadors that go out, and I know things are a little bit different now, but do you want to talk about that and maybe the past and what you're doing now?
Well, I have about 12 very beautiful ladies and about 4 very handsome gentlemen who help market Laville and all our brands. So every time we have a wine tasting, or we have positions at the supermarkets where we want to promote a wine, so these are the people we send out, and we've basically we learn about the wines. We are not like the masters, or for the wines, or we haven't taken the lessons, but we have the basics, and we try to get the notes from the wineries, and we teach them how to handle this, how to open a bottle of wine, how to serve the wine, how it should be drunk, how to hold the glass. That's very important, and they do it in hotels. They do it at the wine testing events, and then they also hold promotions at different supermarkets.
And how does the general public perceive that? Do they like it?
Yes, yes, they do. It's more welcoming than when you just have to put a bottle of wine on the shelf and no one understands it. The one thing that I know about Ugandans, they love their drinks, but they need someone to guide them and tell them. The more you talk about something, the more they love it. So if
And
you
I
just
think, yeah,
if you leave it on
I,
the shelf, then it may stay on the shelf and duster.
so they need some direction on what to do with this beverage that that's not been the cultural beverage. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about the bottling plant that you were discussing.
Uh-huh.
Is that with your friend in South Africa?
Yes, we've discussed it with the owner of Bridge of Hope, Rosemary, and well, we discussed it at the time when COVID also came and hit, and we are still very interested in it, but she's also still trying to get funding and different people on board who can come in. Definitely, we need a winery that can come on board, and then for us, we would have the land, but then would need a lot of a lot of support from any winery that would get. We are open to any country or any winery that can come on board, and so is Rosemary. Rosemary is happy to work with anyone else who can come on board and do a partnership. So we haven't yet rolled out as we had anticipated, but it's still in talks. It's still a big plan.
What type of, I had looked this up a while ago, but what type of wine is the type of the wine grown in Uganda?
Well, we don't really have the grapes that grow like in the vineyards in South Africa or France or Portugal. Well, for us, it's more of the fruit grape wine that would have guava, mango, passion.
Okay, I remember that's more of the local type wine. It's
the local type of wine, yes. I promised to send you a bottle, but I forgot. I think I should do that.
We'll do that again. So tell us about the local wine then, and then most of your wine then is imported from South Africa.
Sorry, say that again?
So talk about the local wine.
Okay. For the local wine, it's it's also very popular. What has made it very popular is that at least they don't have to pay taxes. So it makes it much cheaper than any wine that we are importing. So there's been a custom. It wasn't there before, but now there are about maybe 15 or 20 groups of people who are doing that right now in Uganda, and they are bottling. They are supplying to supermarkets. I think we have one person who is also exporting. The rest are not yet exporting. They don't have certificates as yet. And yeah, it's mainly known to be taken at our introduction ceremonies, weddings, birthdays. People buy it. Some of them some of them are bottled, but recycled bottles from the already used bottles, and then some just put them in jerry cans. And yeah, that's about the local wine.
I know when we were I was talking with South Africa, a variety of people from South Africa during the prohibition here. They had the lockdown and the prohibition. Their grocery stores were promoting a pineapple alcoholic beverage and how to produce the pineapple alcoholic beverage yourself. Or do you have that where you are also, or is that just South Africa?
Well, the promotions here for the local wines, well, it's there, but it's not so vivid. It's just an upcoming thing.
Okay. And I think they were doing it because there was an alcohol ban, and so they were showing people how to produce their own with the pineapple and the sugar and the alcohol. So in the grocery store, I had some pictures of that. Okay.
Well, we've been lucky that we haven't had an alcohol ban. So you are allowed to drink at home. You're just not allowed to drink at the bar. So you can drink at home as long as you don't have many people at home, so you can drink at home. So you can have as much alcohol as you want at home, as long as it's not a bar.
Is that so? One of the things I understood with South Africa, some of that had to do with drinking and driving and people being in the hospital when they needed to actually be taking care of COVID patients. Is the 7 p.m. curfew involving drinking and driving?
Well, I will say that it's always been drinking and driving, whether we are taking patients to hospital or we're just on the road. That's something that is reckless that usually happens. But no, I would say with the 7 p.m. it has been a bit organized. What Uganda has done is that they've organized ambulances. There's protocol for taking people who are sick to hospital. So if you're got and you're drunk, that's a different issue. You would probably be put in the cells, or they wouldn't allow you to drive anyway. So there have been protocols that have been put in place. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit now. Do you want to talk about We all feel like we've been in some very strange science fiction movie with COVID. So, do you want to talk about sort of the evolution of COVID where you are? And where I am, there were a lot of. Do you know what silver linings means in English? Do you know the translation of silver linings? There were a lot
Yeah.
of nice things that happened. So, do you want to talk about COVID and what's happening? What your response was originally, what's happening now, and what were the nice things that you think came out of it?
Um, Let me see. Well, at first, we were first, as Uganda, we were first hit with COVID, I think, around last year in March, but the rest of the world was already suffering. So when Uganda went into lockdown, and it was a total lockdown, no movement, you do not get out of your house, you do not go anywhere, you stay at home. So all we had to do, we would watch TV, would watch France, Italy, and this was like we're seeing people die like on news every day and every day. But then people managed to come around that, start doing more exercises, cooking at home. Um I think COVID, one thing that COVID has helped is has rebuilt families, people who never spend time with their children. We used to drive kids to school. I would be on the road at 5 a.m. in the morning to take my sons to school, and I would have to pick them at 5 p.m. and I would reach home at 9 p.m. And they are nine and they were 7 and 8. They would be so tired. 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's a very long period of time. So
Yes.
right now they're doing classes on Zoom. So there is a computer. They've learned how to use the computers. They've learned how to use different gadgets. They've learned how to do stuff at home. Offices have changed. We are working from home. You don't have to go to office every day. You only have to go in when you really have a client, or you have a meeting, and it has to be a physical meeting. But right now we are doing everything. So it has brought on a lot of development that we have copied. We used to just see this in the Western world, and now it's something that is a reality with us as well.
I think here too, what I saw was there were a lot of people doing the same thing. I live in a smaller city at the moment, but in the larger cities, a lot of people were posting in LinkedIn that it took them an hour and 50 minutes to get to work or 2 hours to get to work. And the same thing, they were 2 hours to get home, and they were working at home and they had 4 hours to that they hadn't had before that they gained back. There were a lot of people at home with their children for the first time. There were I saw a lot of people at home with children. I saw people at home, their college kids had come home, their little kids were at home, and they were doing a lot of home projects. So they were
Mhm.
building things, they were cleaning their houses and painting their houses and building things in the backyard. So, there's a store here called Home Depot that's a housing store that their sales went through the roof because people were doing home projects. And then I think what I found about the cooking, so the restaurants are open again and the prices have gone up. So I went to dinner and it was $60 and it didn't feel like it should cost $60. And then you spend $60 and you've spent a year and a half cooking at home, $60 will pay for, 8 days worth of food. So
Yeah.
I found a couple of things I found is I'm not really interested in paying $60 when for eight, and I found a lot of the food we were cooking at home tasted much better than the food we were buying in restaurants because it had less salt and less fat and it was natural ingredients as opposed to whatever was going on in the restaurants. And so I think, and then I had a lot of time. This little broadcast here I've done, I had to study and watch tutorials on. There's not a lot of directions on how to do this. It's kind of on how to do the graphics and how to do all of these things on it. And so I sat and studied it for hours and hours and hours. And I was worried about starting and how I was going to do it with international people in different countries and times. And it's all worked out. But I've spent a lot of time on this during COVID. So let's talk about some of the things to see and do in Uganda.
Uh-huh. Well, there are a lot of things that can be done in Uganda. Of course, everyone, if you come to Uganda, please pass Laville, have a glass of wine, meet us.
Before 7 p.m. In the daytime.
We'll soon be out of that. We'll soon be out of that. We are going to beat COVID. We are going to beat COVID. But
Okay.
in Uganda right now, the other thing that COVID has helped is that even Ugandans who hadn't traveled outside of their comfort homes, who hadn't gone to other regions, have now gone to other regions. They're visiting Kabale, they're visiting Fort Portal, they're visiting Soroti, they're going to Mbarara. There are people who had never been there. So they're very beautiful, beautiful sceneries that can be seen in different places, lakes, waterfalls, there's bungee jumping. I think I'll send you some of those photos to run, and then we can.
Oh,
we
I'd
can
love to
see.
see them. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, and I'd like to see Uganda too. Okay, so I know you're a big international traveler, and so you've traveled quite extensively, haven't you, out of Uganda?
Yes, I can't say excessively because it's just been a few countries, but
Okay, well,
yes,
few countries
I
first.
have been to UK, I've been to US. Maybe in the US, I've gone to about 8 states, and then
Okay, that's traveling a
yeah,
lot.
and
That's
then
good.
I'm looking forward. Maybe next year when things get better, probably I'll do Portugal and France because of the new partnerships that are coming up, and then yeah, that will be very very interesting.
That's
So
a benefit too. So
yeah,
let's talk about then culture shock. What are some of your culture shock experiences?
sorry, say that again.
Culture shock. What are some of your culture shock experiences in the UK and the United States?
Uh,
I have a long list of culture shock experiences.
what can I say? With Uganda, we are very polite with everything that we do. And then, if you find a Ugandan on the street and you're asking them, for example, where is Kampala Road? The person will literally stop. They could actually take you there. And then, when you go to Europe and you're like, I need to go to this street, I'm lost. Someone is asking you, don't you have an app? Check your gadget. So that was one of the first things. I think the first time I traveled was quite interesting. I couldn't define the different streets, and I couldn't get anyone to help me. Everyone would just point. One person actually just downloaded for me the gadget, which was useful because we're not using it here. And then right now, almost everyone in Uganda uses it. So
Okay,
that was making us.
the iPhone with the maps and things.
Sorry.
The iPhone with the maps. Is that
Yes,
what you're talking about? iPhone? Okay.
yes, iPhone and the maps. Yeah, Google Maps and all that. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of my cultural things. Well, here's one. I travel to Brazil a lot. And when I go to Brazil, so for example, a lot of the Brazilian women have really long brown hair. So my hair, they'll say, they don't always assume that I'm from another country. They'll say, you're a fancy girl from Sao Paulo. My hair is very different. And so it indicates that I'm from a big city. But when I get to Brazil, I take off all of my jewelry. I take all of my jewelry off. I take my rings off. I put on Brazilian jewelry. So Brazilian jewelry might be more tukuma or coconut type jewelry. It's probably, and so I put on Brazilian jewelry, and Brazilian women tend to, sometimes in Brazil, having some sort of well-to-do look like fancy handbags and earrings and attracts very unpleasant attention. So it's better just to take it all off. And I leave my purse at home and I put money in my pocket or in a money belt in my, and then I try to dress and assimilate very quickly to what Brazilians do. And so that I don't stand out. My hair stands out as it is. The hair color and the sort of haircut stands out in South America. So sometimes if I can, I put it up in a ponytail so I kind of blend in a little bit. And then my Brazilian family, when I go to Brazil, they all wear gowns. They all have on gowns, and they're all tropical gowns, and their summer is in my winter. So when I'm trying to find a gown, we don't have tropical gowns here where I live. So I'm just trying to find some sort of gown to wear, and I'm always self-conscious. Well, I'm going to show up in this gown, and they all have on tropical gowns. They usually are really enamored with what I have on, and I feel like it's so odd. It's the wrong thing to have there, and they think it's so interesting and unique because they don't have it there. So it's a different perspective. Okay, so what would you say some of your...
Well, the other thing is, while it's very hot in Uganda, it's very hot. Not as you could say that we are in summer all through, but then it's when you're walking at the beaches and everyone on the streets, and you're like, oh my God. If they're in Uganda, if it's someone who's light skinned and they're dressed in something short or a bikini, it's possible. But if you're a black person and you're in a bikini or something very short, it's like an offense.
Okay, so that's not something you do.
Yeah. So, but well, like we said, cultures evolve and everything changes. So it depends on where you are as well.
It's interesting when you're in another culture because we all live in our own culture. It's a really good thing about traveling because we make assumptions from our own culture. And when you travel, it's really nice to see the rest of the world and how the rest of the world does things and not see things from the bubble of your own country, which can be a bad thing to do. I think I'm really glad that I've traveled so much. Okay, so tips for successful entrepreneurs. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. What would you say some of your things would be for women or just successful entrepreneurs in general? What would be some of your tips?
Well, first, it's persistence. Then second, make as many connections as you can. Networking is very important. You get to learn a lot and you get to expand and widen your knowledge. So persistence is one thing. So that's one thing that you have to do. You can't do something and then when it fails, you give up on it. You can't do that. That means you are never meant to do it. You have to find a way to make it better and then make it better and better the next day. Make many connections and interact with very many people. Interact with people within the similar business and people who are doing different businesses to understand how to go about it.
And I think too with what you're saying is we all have obstacles. And a lot of us, being able to get through the obstacle or this isn't turning out the way I thought it would, and then keep going, or I thought things were supposed to be different, or we weren't going to have COVID and had to be home at 7 p.m. And how are we going to handle it? And I think one of the things COVID has done too is we've had to shift. Well, I think a lot of it was a big shift to family from what I could see, or family and taking us back from consumerism back to family and being involved with our families. On my side, it sounds like on your side as well, and having time to be with our families. And I think that's been a very big blessing for us to see. And then also pivoting forward with, okay, how are we going to get through this and the next things that are coming? And I think some of the things that are happening here are shortages. So because of COVID and the shutdown across the world, we're not receiving products and we're not receiving food. So we've had some very big companies like Taco Bell post signs saying, we don't have the food to produce the food today. Or so a lot of the food's not coming in. A lot of the clothing stores and things look very empty, or they don't have much of a selection at the moment because the retail isn't coming in to the different things. So, I mean, into the different locations. Are you seeing that where you are with production or with retail? Or is most of your
Well,
stuff?
it's I would say with the movement, when we went under lockdown, they never stopped any trucks for movement as long as it was consumption, anything to do with food was allowed to move. But I can't say that many people suffered, and many people didn't have what to eat, or they are surviving on one meal. And there are those who have plenty, but Ugandans are very generous people as well. So if they identify certain groups of people that don't have food, they've tried to help. Through Laville, we've helped a number of our customers. We've helped our brand ambassadors. We've helped also a few different people when it comes to food, when they don't have something to eat. And we still do that. I'm also involved in a women's group, Proverbs 21, and we basically collect money from different people and then buy household stuff that people need for women who have just given birth, those who are pregnant. So we help a number of people that are like that. So you'll find a number of groups that are trying to connect with people, whether they're in the villages, whether they're in town, to try and help out during this situation. So for most of the people that reach out and say, I have nothing, people have been generous and have tried to give. So yeah, we've done it as Laville. We have done it. I've seen my company, National Housing, do it. I've done it with a number of ladies that are helping. And we also welcome other people who want to join on board and help other people, because there are many people who are suffering, and there are many people who are too proud to say that I don't have anything, but you have to find them. So they will not say I am here, but somehow maybe you've asked through different groups, and we've managed to help a number of people.
I think I've been doing the same thing. I've been giving things I don't need from my house, or I've always done things like take food and things like that too. And I think that's a really nice thing to do. And I'm hoping for my work with, I'm very altruistic. And so I'm hoping that I can do things like supply educational supplies and tuition and uniforms and things like that as well. And that's what I'm working on too. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we'll wrap up for today. And so one of the things, so we'll just talk a little bit about the broadcast, and we'll end with our lovely friend in Uganda. So, and thank you so much. So we'll talk a little bit about the broadcast again. So we are going to be posting this. This will be at 11 a.m. every Friday. And so you're welcome to ask any kind of questions. I will talk to Lillian about going live. If we go live, the audience can ask questions live, which is kind of fun because you never know what they're going to ask on Facebook as well as on LinkedIn. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And I just wanted to say, if you we'd love to have you connect with us, ask questions. Please subscribe to the YouTube broadcast. Right here we go.